Hello everyone, Flandre here. Today we're going to take a look at my new Jeep Willys. This here is an original military M38 vehicle. I found it, crazy enough, on Facebook Marketplace for sale by a 13-year-old kid who decided that he didn't want to drive this to school every day and his grandfather had just gotten him an F-150. Welcome to rural Georgia, I guess. When I saw it for sale, I was like, I gotta go check this thing out, because even if it was like a CJ3, it was so cheap, it was only a few $100s, I was like, I may as well go for it. So I went over, and as soon as I got there, I was just like, oh my god, the windshield there, when I saw that the vent there was bolted in place, that's indicative of at least the windshield being military. But then you notice there's the battery box, and that's definitely M38. The civilian CJ3s, they had a 6-volt system and a single battery on the inside, whereas these military M38s had 2 batteries for a 24-volt system. They also would bolt up the vent on the front, as they're basically based on the CJ3s and a modified version of the civilian CJ3s, and then produced into military production. These particular Jeeps were the least produced of the military Jeeps during this time frame. These were essentially designed and built during the Korean War. I think only around 60,000 or so, 68,000 I believe, were actually produced. Not a lot of them are survived. And when I saw this, I was just like, oh my god, let me go grab this thing, especially for the price. It had been, unfortunately, Bubba got his hands on it and did his damage. So I've got my work cut out for me to kind of restore this to as original as I can. So we'll kind of go over everything on this particular vehicle. So starting in the front here, we have this modified contraption. It has a modified bumper that's been added to it. I'll have to unbolt all this and find an original bumper. They have this guard that they've installed as well. They have a whole electrical system that they have pushed up to it. As you can see here, they also have these lights that were added that are being ported through where the original blackout lights would be. This tow hook as well. I mean, there were tow hooks that were for the M38s, but this doesn't look like it's an original one. So it definitely looks like this was handmade for this particular modification. Kind of moving forward here, we do have the original windshield here, which is nice. Glass needs to be replaced, but that's not hard to do. Coming around to the side here, we do have some damage here, but you'll notice here that this isn't actually metal, it's actually Bondo. They bondoed up the sides at some point, and that's actually protected the metal underneath. I looked around on the inside of the tub, and I don't really see any like breakthrough or any like real bad pitting on this side. There's some on the other side, but I'll show that in a minute. But for whatever reason, they had bonded up these sides here, or this particular side I should say, and this is all going to have to come off, and I'll have to, it might have been because this metal's a little warped, I'm not sure. Maybe they thought they could just smooth it out with Bondo. So who knows, maybe I might do the same if I feel like it's too warped and too difficult to actually massage the metal, and just Bondo it up and then flatten it out. As you can see, there will need some work done here to get this straightened out. Overall, I mean, the body isn't in terrible shape compared to other vehicles I've seen, especially considering these have been sitting out for years. The tub here, for example, it's very common for water to pool if these have been sitting. And you can see that stuff definitely had been the case here, although we only have small breakthrough right here. For the most part, there's a lot of thick metal still here that's usable. Nothing some new metal and welding can't fix. It is missing the pedal there. The gas pedal is missing off of the actual thing here, so I'll need to get a replacement for that. The gauges have been replaced at some point. The speedometer gauge is busted or cracked out there. I don't know about this steering wheel. It looks like it might be a CJ3 steering wheel. You do see here we have original seats on it. We do have these tie-down hooks all along these, which would have been original, although these, I believe, were removed and reinstalled after they bondoed up the body here. Although once again, on the inside of the body, it does look fine. I don't see any like rotting or really bad rust on it. So I'm not entirely sure about the Bondo or why it was done. So now we can see on the inside of the wheel wells here, and the metal's pretty much fine. I'm not entirely sure why they bonded the outside. Especially considering the Bondo job was apparently done like 30 years ago. So this had been sitting for another 30 years after that. So well, I guess I'll just be peeling these off eventually and going through and trying to restore it as much as I can. We do have this added roll bar cage, but we do have the original holder here that the soft top cover would have been over. I'll have to remove these bolts and pop this roll cage out if I want to restore it back to original specification and look. I wonder if some of these were done so that it could be road legal. I'm not sure. I'm wondering if the lights in the front that were added were blinkers, although it's missing mirrors, so I don't know about that. The bed itself looks really good, especially considering it had been sitting out for so many years. There's no real bad rust to speak of, no holes, definitely fixable, or just cleaned up really. Just need to clean it up. Probably drill some holes there, get the original 1919 mount put into the bed. The bed was extended. Once again, Bubba got his hands on this and you can see where it was welded. This would have been just a tailgate. In the original military ones, the tailgate was then bolted in place, although in the CJ3s, the tailgate could open and close. The military ones, they decided they didn't want to allow it to open and close. None of the other military-produced Jeeps actually even had openable tailgates. It was only the M38s that had these openable, or tailgates that could be opened if you remove the bolts, but they tried to bolt them up. So you can see here they also added this tow system here. Once again, not original at all. The gas can thing here is now welded onto the side of this, or bolted onto the side of this, and it's covering what would be the lights and the blackout lights on the rear. Coming around to the side here, this side is probably the worst and probably will need the most work. It's pretty much fine on the back here, and the rest of the side has no Bondo on it. And again, like I said earlier, this had been sitting for about 30 years, and because the other side was bondoed up, that Bondo kind of protected the metal. So we come down here, and we do see one of the main features that essentially indicate that this is in fact a military M38 is the fact that in the body they have these indents here, and that is for a pickaxe and a shovel that essentially would be sitting into these indents, and then they would have been bolted into place here and then bolted in place over here. But we do see here we have a hole right here. This will have to be patched up and replaced. We see on the bottom here we do have some pretty bad rust that's rusted all the way through on this side. It's somewhat thin in this area, but it is pretty thick up here. But as you can see here, we've just got some breakthrough. This is going to require quite a bit of work to kind of get back. The frame itself, though, is pretty solid, which is good. We also see right here as well where that's broken through. So this side is kind of the worst. The frame itself is really solid. There's nothing really, haven't seen anywhere on the frame. I went over the entire frame. I didn't see anywhere where it was really bad. Like the rust itself isn't too bad, and everything on it is is solid all the way through. I didn't see anywhere where it was breaking through. And that can definitely be cleaned up. It'll definitely take some work, and we'll have to get this on a lift. We do see here the military suspension springs here. I'm not sure if I'm going to replace those or not. I probably will, but and they feel solid, but who knows how well they'll hold up. Coming back out here, this side of the tub fared pretty well over the years. There's no real rust or breakages to speak of, just leaves and crap that can be cleaned out. There is the original glove box here. Once again, the military style. The CJ3s were different. They didn't have the style of glove box. We see here the latch to kind of keep the whole windshield kind of allow you to move it back and forth. It will fold over. The original wipers are not present, and here's also where like the wiper system would have been installed. That's not on this Jeep either. We see some things are kind of pushed out and kind of missing. We have some missing plates here. There should be a plate here, another plate here, and I believe, yeah, there should be one more plate here. So 3 plates are missing. We do have these 2 plates, including one that has the shift pattern. We do have all our knobs here. Here we have one to shift between 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, and then of course high and low gear, and our actual gear shifter lever right here. So all that's present. The boot itself is kind of broken though. That's replaceable. One of the biggest things, and the things that I feared the most, was under this seat here there is a toolbox here, and usually it's rusted as hell under these toolboxes, and that is indeed the case with this Jeep. Usually water gets in here, and if it sits for years and years at a time, that water just eats the bottom here. Past the toolbox here, there's actually no rust or really damage to speak of in terms of anything in terms of breakthrough. I mean, there's some rust, but it's nothing really too bad. But just this area here, you can see it just completely, it definitely had been sitting for years with basically water sitting in this toolbox, and I mean all this is just coming undone. I mean, I can just take this whole, wow, yeah, I can take this whole piece off here, so I'll need to cut out this whole section and weld in a new basically bottom for this area. That's very common on Jeeps like these that sit, is under that toolbox it just completely rusts out. So really the right side is kind of, or the passenger side I should say, is really the worst. But I'll say in terms of most of the body work, I mean this panel here though looks great compared to the other side. But in terms of the body work that needs to be done, I mean it's mostly just getting this welded up, getting this particular side fixed up, getting under the toolbox cut out and welded up. Other than that, it's not bad. A lot of it's just going to be cleanup work, really more cleanup work than anything else. And then of course I'm going to need to remove Bondo and sandblast and do repaint. And then I have to get it mechanically running. In fact, I'm probably going to do that first, actually. That's what I will do first. Really the first thing I'm going to do is take out the gas tank here so that I can clean it up, make sure the fuel pump is working, and make sure the engine can run perfectly fine. The engine actually does run. I know the engine runs. I can take like a spray bottle with gasoline in it, put it into the carb, spray it, turn it, and it'll actually turn on. So that's at least positive. It'll turn over. But there is one major problem that we have with the engine, and I'll show you that in a second. So let's get this hood open and show you what's underneath here and why I got the M38 for a few $100s. So first thing we're going to notice is I believe this hood was in fact added after, as it doesn't have the snorkel cut out on the side. I'm not sure what this hood is, as it doesn't have like the Willis embossed, which you'd see on like the CJ3s. But now let's take a look inside the engine bay. Oh, yup, that's right folks. This does not have what would have been like a CJ3 engine in here. Instead, we have a Ford-made engine. In particular, this engine came from a Ford Pinto, and the redneck bubbas that got their hands on this particular Jeep had replaced it with a Ford Pinto engine. With a Ford Pinto engine means many other things also had to be changed, including the entire electrical system. This does not have the 24-volt electrical system that the original CJ3s, or I should say the original M38s had. The CJ3s had a 6-volt electrical system. What it does mean is that certain parts, like the starter there, which is brand new, are easy to find, and I can buy at like Advanced Auto Parts or something like that. We do here have the Pinto engine mated to the original M38 transmission here, so that's at least interesting. Of course, the exhaust manifold comes down and comes out the same way inside that the original M38 came out. And I'm honestly not sure that I want to bother actually changing the engine out to an M38 or a CJ3 engine, as it'll be quite a bit of work. I have to find one, and then I have to redo the entire electrical system as well. This engine does run, so there is that. Now, it doesn't give power to the transmission right now. I think there's something wrong with the clutch. So I'm going to have to take this whole thing apart and see, or essentially drop the transmission here rather, and see what's going on there. And if it's something that is a pain in the ass to deal with, then I might have to think about a different drivetrain option. Like maybe it is the Ford Pinto engine having problems being mated to the Willis transmission. I'm not sure. If that is the case, then I might do something stupid like stick in an electric motor just to trigger people. But yeah, that's what I have in regards to the drivetrain and the engine right now, is that we do have this abomination inside under the hood. So yeah, that's what I have going on with this particular vehicle. I'll definitely be making some more updates on this, and you all will be able to see the progress on this particular vehicle. And yes, I am still working on more videos with the Czech OT64. This vehicle does run pretty good. There's not a lot of things I need to do to it in terms of restoration. The main thing I need to do is get the power steering to work properly. I think it needs to be bled, or it needs new power steering fluid. That's really the only thing that's giving me trouble, is the power steering. Everything else is pretty spot on and pretty well maintained, and I mean it was rebuilt before it was imported too, so I mean the whole engine and the whole transmission and everything else is pretty fantastic. And I'll make more videos on that soon. Hopefully I'll be able to start on this project soon as well, as soon as I get an understanding of what I need to do. I'll need to get a lift too, start unbolting things and blasting things and removing rust. So overall it could be in a lot worse shape. I've definitely seen listings of these Jeeps, this particular CJ3s, in terrible shape for a lot more than I paid for this one. But it's nice to have this little piece of history in my collection, and I just gotta make it better. Well, I hope you all found this enjoyable. I will be making more videos in the future, so have a good one.
was waltzing with my darling to the Tennessee world when an old friend happened to see. I introduced her to my loved one, and for the waltzing, my friends stole my sweetheart from me. 去りにし夢あのテネシーウォール懐かしい愛の歌面影忍んで今宵もと潤してねしを懐かしいあのテネシーウォール今宵も流れ来る別れたあの子よ今はいずこ呼べど帰らない I remember the night in the Tennessee world. Only you know how much I have lost. Yes, to lost my little darling.